Okay, still coming off of the after effects of a cold, but I thought I'd make a quick video. Second time trying this, but essentially it's just going to be 3 games that I think are worth playing now that I used to play as a kid. So, without further ado, number 1, Raymond Gold. Now, as a child, this was probably one of the earlier games that I started to play. Not the earliest, but one of the earlier ones. A bunch of you probably played the most recent Raymans, which are just called Rayman. It's getting very confusing. But this was the first ever one that was made, and it was quite good. As a child, I was tricked into playing this game when I actually wanted the Sonic games because my parents, don't know what, for every reason, probably because Rayman was cheaper, told me that this is Sonic's best friend. No, you don't want Sonic, you want this game, Rayman. But I don't know if it was just to try and get more variety in my life. Couldn't tell you, but I played Sonic Racing and none of the platformers and thought that game was great. But that's besides the point. The original Rayman is pretty similar to the new ones. It's a 2D platformer where you go through all these different worlds trying to save Electoons. In the new ones, it's a similar-ish idea in that you have an evil witch that's, as far as I can tell from the story, put in all these evil things around the world, whereas the original one was you had an evil wizard that had captured all of the Electoons and put them in cages. I think the idea was from the Game Boy version that I had, at least, because the PC version doesn't have an intro cinematic for some strange reason, or at least one that I can't figure out how to play. But on the Game Boy version, the exposition was that the Electoons powered the lifeblood of Rayman's world, which are pretty much these pink little ball things with hair, and in sealing them up, they were not able to do what they would normally do to keep the world alive and happy. So he was doing it to destroy the universe, and your job was to put these things back into the universe so they didn't die. Now, some of you may have noticed when Rayman dies, he explodes and does a lot of these little Electoon things everywhere. These implications can be a few things, and it's something that's never really explained, but I could probably find on the wiki if I really wanted to. It's more fun just to think about it though. I mean, the first one could be that he just keeps everyone he saves in his pockets. He could even be made of them, or he could just eat them, which would really put a dark spin on this story where he's going to be saving the world. He's actually just making sure he doesn't go hungry. I mean, the game's very well thought out. It even has a piracy mode if you play the game and don't insert the disc, which it calls the limited mode. Which I have no idea how Rayman was created or what his origin story is, but he's there and it's not really the point of the game. I think there was some technical limitations for the reasons why they drew him without arms and legs, but according to the wiki, there's something to do with some Celtic and Russian folk stories that developers enjoyed to read as a kid. And you can buy this game on GOG for less than a £5. Well, £5 English. I think it's about $7 American, so that's still pretty cheap for a game that's reasonably challenging and pretty good, in all fairness. Number 2, Claw, or Captain Claw, depending upon your region. This game is another platformer that I really enjoyed. I first heard about it as a kid because I had a demo from, you know, like when you bought a PC magazine, which my dad used to do a lot. I think he bought an episode of PC Advisor, and the CD that came with it had a couple of demo levels created by Monolith in the full game. I used to play the shit out of them because it was just a really, I don't know, I just liked the idea of a pirate cat running around killing dogs at the time. Which our family has always had a lot of cats, so I guess where that kind of came from. And the main reason why, of course, my dad had all this stuff and even the computers plays on was a huge computer nerd, which has translated into me, so hooray. But this game was really cool. It was another platformer, and the premise of it was you are a pirate cat that had his crew killed, so you were the captain of the ship, by the Spanish Armada, or Spanish dogs, which was just dogs and mostly the enemies in this game. While you were in prison, after being taken to prison, you found like a little scrap of paper detailing something called the 9 Lives Amulet, which is just meant to be some legend. And the whole idea was you went around the game world collecting gems for the amulet as well as pieces of the map to try and find the amulet, which there are 20 levels, and they're all very varied. You go from like a prison to a swamp to a forest to a jungle and even like a shipyard, and you even jump across a bunch of ships while playing the game. And how I got Claw was through my granddad, because we couldn't find a copy in the UK, So instead, what we did was we asked my granddad to contact his pen pal who lived in America, where the game was produced, and he mailed it to us. He bought it and then sent it to us, and we paid him for it. So I will be quite grateful always to his pen pal for doing that for me, because it was a great game. I don't know how we got into the conversation, but I guess he just emailed him and asked about it. The benefit of this one is that it's abandonware now, and there are certain Claw fan sites where you can just download the entire game for free, as well as patches to get it working in the modern age, modern computers. So honestly, you have no excuse not to at least try this out, and if you don't like it, meh. And finally, number 3. Star Trek Voyager Elite Force. This is probably one of the first shooters I ever played as a kid. I'm not sure how I heard about it, but I do think I got the first couple of levels off of a demo disc again. This was a really cool game, and it was based around one of the episodes where the Voyager team got pulled into like an interdimensional rift, which kind of happened more times than I care to admit. But in this one they kind of fleshed it out a little bit by having one of the security teams being essentially made into special operatives to go and do little missions. And the whole game's very good. I actually, as a kid, got very close to the end of it, but could never defeat the final boss. The game does character building in an interesting way. It was in the one of the earlier Quake engines. And the way it does exposition with building the characters is that you have a mission briefing on the ship, and then you go get your weapons from the armory, do a bit of training in the holodeck, go then on your mission, and the cycle repeats. Every time you have a mission from the ship, you would start on the ship in the briefing, talk to your crewmates a little bit, go to the armory, do the mission. And it was quite interesting because it meant that you actually felt like you were on Voyager taking part in an episode, because you would get to see the characters walking around and you'd see them having interactions with each other, and all the cutscenes were done like an episode of Voyager, which is one of my favourite, well, series of Star Trek. The idea of a crew trapped 70-ish years from home trying to make their way there and just trying to be the best they can is a very cool concept. However, something I was disappointed with was that even though they included the original title sequence from the series, they didn't include the music that was in the series with it. Instead, we got a rehashed MIDI version that sounds like this. However, I can't play the original series intro here because YouTube copyright restrictions, but there is a link to where you can watch it in the description below. I'd actually recommend watching Voyager in its entirety, but besides the point. But the game was also very good, and like now I have it with one of the expansion packs. I think the expansion pack is made from a lot of unofficial community mods, but they got together, I think, with the developers to finish a lot of it. And this adds a lot more exposition in terms of the in-betweeny things that you do between missions, like actually having a crew lounge and talking to different members of the crew, and even just watching Neelix ask a pair of the Elite Force team members how they're enjoying their food. I mean, some of the other stuff that was great about this game was the freedom of choice that you had in a lot of areas. There is the option to go on a killing spree and just shoot everybody on the ship at any time you want once you've got your weapons, which eventually you would get arrested by 2 security members teleporting next to you, coming to you, and then the game would fade to black and you'd wind up in a prison. And either Tom Paris or Neelix or Janeway would come and say, oh, you're being given a second chance, or tell you how disappointed they were with you. Which is also modes where you have to go through the ship and help other characters repair the ship after it's been attacked. There's particularly the first bit this happens. There's a man coming down a corridor and you have to shut off a shield to stop the ship from exploding. And you have the option of doing this after he passes the shield, but this is very dicey, like again an episode of Voyager. You can save him with the explosion just stopping feet away from you, or you can just activate the shield and it will boop and he will die from the explosions. Honestly, it's worth playing. I'm planning on picking up the sequel at some point, but you can get this on the cheap second hand at most PC shops because it doesn't have any modern DRM, it's just a CD key. Unfortunately, it's not on GOG, but it would be nice if they created a copy that's been optimized for the modern day. I'd love to see this in HD resolutions. So yeah, it's been a nice nostalgia trip of all the games I used to play before I turned into a mini fridge. Anyway, thank you very much for watching, and I might do more of these, so subscribe if you want to hear more of this. If you enjoyed the video, give it a like, and please comment what games you played as a child down in the comment section below, because I do like old games and you can get them for £1 at most second-hand shops, so why not? I might try some of them out. And if you want to see more gaming content, I do have a gaming channel. Mostly on here I'll be posting Arma 3 videos and some Let's Plays if I ever do them, but any actual content like this where I talk in a vloggy style about some games will probably go on the main channel. The gaming channel is more for just stuff that I think the main channel audience will find a bit boring.